Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Reading from Caitanya Charitamrta Adi Lila, Chapter 1, The Spiritual Masters, text number 57. Chintamani Jayati Somogirir Gurur Me Shiksha Guruscha Bhagavan Sikhipencha Maliha Yat Padakalpataru Pallava Shekhareshu Lila Swayamvara Rasam Labhate Jaya Shrihi. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Chintamani and my initiating spiritual master Somagiri. All glories to my instructing spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who wears peacock feathers in his crown, under the shade of his lotus feet, which are like desire trees. Jaya Shri Radharani enjoys the transcendental mellow of an eternal consort. Purport. This verse is from the Krishna Karnamrita, which was written by a great Vaishnava sannyasi named Bilva Mangala Thakur, who is also known as Lila Shuk. He intensely desired to enter into the eternal pastimes of the Lord, and he lived at Vrindavan for 700 years in the vicinity of Brahmakund, a still existing bathing tank in Vrindavan. The history of Bilvala Mangala Thakur is given in a book called Sri Vallabha Digvijaya. He appeared in the 18th century of the Shak era in the province of Dravid and was a chief disciple of Vishnu Swami. In a list of temples and monasteries kept in Shankaracharya's monastery in Dwarka, Bilva Mangala is mentioned as the founder of the Dwarkadhish temple there. He entrusted the service of his deity to Hari Brahmachari, a disciple of Vallabha Bhatta. Bilva Mangala Thakur actually entered into the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna. He has recorded his transcendental experiences and appreciation in the book known as Krishna Karnamrita. In the beginning of that book, he has offered his obeisances to his different gurus, and it is to be noted that he has adored them all equally. The first spiritual master mentioned is Chintamani, who was one of his instructing spiritual masters because she first showed him the spiritual path. Chintamani was a prostitute with whom Bilva Mangala was intimate earlier in his life. She gave him the inspiration to begin on the path of devotional service. And because she convinced him to give up material existence to try for perfection by loving Krishna, he has first offered his respects to her. Next, he offers his respects to his initiating spiritual master Somagiri, and then to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was also his instructing spiritual master. He explicitly mentions Bhagavan, who has peacock feathers on his crown, because the Lord of Vrindavan, Krishna, the cowherd boy, used to come to Bilva Mangala to talk with him and supply him with milk. In his adoration of Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, he states that Jayashri, the goddess of fortune, Srimati Radharani, takes shelter in the shade of his lotus feet to enjoy the transcendental rasa of nuptial love. The complete treatise, Krishna Karnamrita, is dedicated to the transcendental pastimes of Sri Krishna and Srimati Radharani. It is a book to be read and understood by the most elevated devotees of Sri Krishna. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmanitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So welcome to today's Chaitanya Charitamrita class. And before we begin, Let us see who is Bilba Mangala Thakur, because there are quite a few verses about him, and it's important to know who is he. He actually, Bilba Mangala Thakur was a Brahmana born in South Indian family. So he belonged to South India, and he, being in a Brahmana family, it was very surprising that he fell down. Why? Because he got attached to a society girl called Chintamani. Now, Chintamani was Krishna conscious, even though she was not a Brahmana. And here he was a Brahmana, and he fell down because of his attraction and attachment to Chintamani. He was so attached to her that one day, when his father passed away, he performed the, you know, final, final rites for his father, and immediately after completing that, he started going towards Chintamani. His father just passed away, but he was so attached, even though there was heavy thunderstorm, heavy rains, and it was pouring, and he could barely see the road, but he still started walking towards Chintamani's house. And when he reached the shores of a river, he saw that, the river was really kind of flooding, and he was wondering how is he going to swim across the river. Then he saw something floating, and he thought it was probably a log of wood. He held on to that, and he swam across. Guess what was that? That was a dead body that was floating in the river. It didn't matter to him what it was. He just wanted to go and see Chintamani to satisfy his senses. That much attached he was to Chintamani. And then when he crossed the river and he saw that the main gate was locked, and he didn't know what to do. There was a, big wall. And so he decided to climb the wall. He couldn't reach. So he probably saw a rope hanging from that wall. So he held on to that, and he climbed up the wall. And when he jumped on the other side inside, he noticed that was a snake. It didn't matter to him. He just was obsessed with Chintamani. He had to see her anyhow. So no matter what, he wanted Chintamani. So when he reached the main door, he knocked on the door. And when Chintamani opened the door, she was shocked. What? In this heavy thunderstorm, you have come to see me? He said, yes. She was shocked to see his attachment to her body. And then she told him, you are so attached to my body. I wish you were that much attached to Krishna. Why are you not attached to Krishna? And he realized, oh, yes, what am I doing? Instead of giving all my love and attachment and attraction to Krishna, I have been doing it to just a body of Chintamani. So he immediately left. So, see, she was the first instructing spiritual master for Bilva Mangala Thakur. She's the one who guided him. She's the one who revived the Krishna consciousness in his heart. And he was so inspired and so happy to hear that he left for Vrindavan in search for eternal happiness. This is what a Shiksha Guru does. A Shiksha Guru is considered a Shiksha Guru only when that Shiksha Guru is able to somehow or the other help others to progress in Krishna consciousness, to revive that intimate love for Krishna. So he immediately set off to Vrindavan. But guess what? While he was, on the way to Vrindavan, he saw a beautiful lady, and she was already married, and he got attracted to her. So he approached And she said, well, I'm already married. You'll have to take permission from my husband if you want to enjoy me. So he approached the husband and said, can I please enjoy with your wife? The husband gave the permission. And then when he went to the wife, he realized, how fallen am I? How fallen. I'm even thinking about enjoying with someone else's wife. So he asked that lady, who was also a Brahmana, he asked that lady, can I have your hairpins? She gave him the hairpins, and immediately he pierced his eyes with the hairpin. He said, these are the eyes that are making me run after these attractive women. I don't want to see anymore. So he became blind. And then he was really ashamed. So he said, now I must go to Vrindavan. So he went to Vrindavan. Why was he now? What was the difference? The difference was now there was determination. No matter what, I will try to become Krishna conscious. I am going to try hard to give up this material activities, give up materialism and go towards the spiritual life. So he went and he took initiation from his initiating Guru Somagiri, as is mentioned in this verse that we read today. And he was given the name Lila Shuka. Why? Because he was able to describe the pastimes of Radha Krishna very expertly. He was so engrossed in Krishna consciousness that he was even feeling the ecstasy. He was able to even, narrate the pastimes of Radha and Krishna so beautifully that whoever heard it would go in ecstasy. That's why his spiritual master Somagiri gave him the name Lila Shukha. So now we can see from this verse, he is first glorifying his Shiksha Guru Chintamani. Even though she was a prostitute, she was a society girl, but she was Krishna conscious and she inspired him to progress spiritually. So he's offering his humble obeisances, glorifying his Shiksha Guru first. Then he glorifies his Diksha Guru, his initiating Guru Somagri. Then he glorifies the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is also his instructing spiritual master. So Bilva Mangala Thakur, he understood, he realized that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. But when he would sit down and he would, talk about Krishna, he would meditate, he would chant, a little boy would come to him every day with milk. He was Bilva Mangala Thakur was blind. He couldn't go around, begging for some alms, for his sustenance. But Krishna would come to him with milk. But Bilva Mangala Thakur didn't even realize that this little boy is Krishna. Only when this little boy started playing on his flute, that Bilva Mangala Thakur realized, and he went into ecstasy. He was so ecstatic. He was like, oh, Krishna, my Krishna is the one who's been bringing milk for me every day. He said, I want to see you and I want to touch you. But Krishna started running away from him. And Bilva Mangala Thakur said, well, you can run away from me, but you cannot run away from my heart. Right? This verse is talking about Krishna's lotus feet, which are like desire trees. Why does Srila Prabhupada in his Krishna book also, keep on emphasizing on the fact that we must meditate on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord? They are like desire trees, right? And also meditate on Srimati Radharani. In this verse, she's been addressed as Jayashri, right? She's an eternal consort that enjoys with Lord Sri Krishna. And Bilva Mangala Thakur was an expert in talking about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. He put his beautiful verses that he composed. That book is called Krishna Karnamrita. Karna means ear, Amrita means nectar. Nectar to ears about Krishna, hearing about Krishna, which is nectar to the ears. That is by Bilva Mangala Thakur. And this Krishna Karnamrita is also called Lila Shuka. And this verse that we recited today is also from Krishna Karnamrita. So you see, we can see in the purpose, Srila Prabhupada mentions that Bilva Mangala Thakur had the intense desire to enter into the pastimes of Krishna. Intense desire, Lolayam. That greed has to be there. Yes, I want to be Krishna conscious. Not only that, I want to progress in Krishna consciousness. Not only that, I want to meditate on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And here, Bilva Mangala Thakur, from his life and his pastimes, we can see that it is possible, right? He lived in Vrindavan for 700 years as at Brahmakund, which is still existing. And he's, as in the purport it's mentioned, he is also the founder of Dwarkadhish temple. And of course, because of his pure love for Krishna, he entered into the eternal pastimes. And after entering into these eternal pastimes, he wrote this Krishna Karnamrita, which is nothing but his experiences and his appreciation for Radha and Krishna. So you see, so he's glorifying and he's talking about Krishna and he's talking to Krishna. See, there are 112 verses glorifying and talking about Krishna. He's talking about the gopis, he's talking about Krishna's beautiful flute, about Krishna's transcendental beauty, about how he's a beautiful dark bluish boy, talking about his eternal consort, Srimati Radharani. He's glorifying the beautiful face of Lord Krishna, his glances, his beautiful smile, his complete beauty. He's describing Krishna. And Bilva Mangala Thakur, he is greedy for Krishna's beauty. He says that that's the beauty that's capturing me. And he wants to take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. He wants that Krishna, he comes near to his heart, comes near to him, and he's telling his mind, please think about Krishna. Let that Krishna come near to my heart. My mind, please think about Krishna. He does not want to see any other object, only and he only wants to see those objects that can be used in the worship of Krishna. And he's lamenting, when will I get to see Krishna? How many times have we sat down and contemplate on our spiritual progress, on our sadhana bhakti? Are we having that intense greed for it? Are we having that intense desire to see Krishna? Here, Bilva Mangala Thakur, he's like, when will I get to see Krishna? When will I hear his beautiful transcendental flute? He's so eager. He says, I'm eager to embrace Krishna with my eyes. I cannot forget you. You are my very life. This is the meditation of Bilva Mangala Thakur. This should be our meditation, that we should never forget Krishna. What's that beautiful verse? Smartavya satatam Vishnu vismartavya na jatuchit. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So Bilva Mangala Thakur's glorification of Krishna shows how deeply he was in love with Krishna. Prabhupada says that Krishna Karnamrita, if you read the last sentence of this purport, he says that this book, it is a book to be read and understood by the most elevated devotees of Sri Krishna. This is the power of that beautiful book, Krishna Karnamrita. Let's go to the next verse, number 58. जीवे साक्षात् नाहि ताते गुरु चैत्य रूपे शिक्षा गुरु हय कृष्ण महांत स्वरूपे. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Since one cannot visually experience the presence of the Supersoul, he appears before us as a liberated devotee. Such a spiritual master is none other than Krishna himself. Purport. It is not possible for a conditioned soul to directly meet Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if one becomes a sincere devotee and seriously engages in devotional service, Lord Krishna sends an instructing spiritual master to show him favor and invoke his dormant propensity for serving the Supreme. The preceptor appears before the external senses of the fortunate conditioned soul, and at the same time, the devotee is guided from within by the Chaitya Guru Krishna, who is seated as the spiritual master within the heart of the living entity. See, again, the importance of spiritual master is being emphasized, right? Krishna himself is also our instructing spiritual master. He is guiding us from within, right? Prabhupada has said that the conditioned souls, they cannot see Krishna directly, right? It's not possible. But if one is sincere and serious, these are the two things I always keep talking about: this sincerity and seriousness in Krishna consciousness. So if one is serious and sincere in performing devotional service, what will be the result? Krishna will send a bona fide spiritual master, a bona fide Shiksha Guru who can guide us, who can motivate us, who can enlighten us, and who can guide us to an initiating spiritual master, which is a Diksha Guru. So, why does Krishna send a bona fide Shiksha Guru? To do what? To revive our Krishna consciousness and also to revive our service attitude toward Krishna, right? We have forgotten, we have been so conditioned in so many lifetimes, we've been just serving our senses. We're just serving, the family, the society, the country, or whatever it may be, but it is all on the bodily platform. But here, it is important to understand that Krishna guides a serious and sincere devotee to a Shiksha Guru, then to a Diksha Guru, so that one can get the guidance not only from them but also from Krishna, who is within, situated as a super soul, right? And within, he says, I am situated as Paramatma, and without, I am present as the bona fide spiritual master. So this is the importance, very, very important to have a bona fide, Shiksha Guru, Diksha Guru, so that, we can get the high guidance and help to progress spiritually, because that is the goal of human life. Human life is given to us to break the cycle of birth and death. Let's go to verse number 59. ततो दुःसङ्गमुत्सृज्य सत्सु सज्जेत बुद्धिमान् सन्त एव स चिन्तन्ति मनोव्यासङ्गम् उक्तिभिः. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. One should therefore avoid bad company and associate only with devotees. With their realized instructions, such saints can cut the knot connecting one with activities unfavorable to devotional service. Purport. This verse, which appears in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 26th chapter, verse 26, was spoken by Lord Krishna to Uddhava in the text known as the Uddhava Gita. The discussion relates to the story of Pururava and the heavenly courtesan Urvashi. When Urvashi left Pururava, he was deeply affected by the separation and had to learn to overcome his grief. It is indicated that to learn the transcendental science, it is imperative that one avoid the company of undesirable persons, and always seek the company of saints and sages who are able to impart lessons of transcendental knowledge. The potent words of such realized souls penetrate the heart, thereby eradicating all misgivings accumulated through years of undesirable association. For a neophyte devotee, there are two kinds of persons whose association is undesirable: gross materialists who constantly engage in sense gratification, and unbelievers who do not serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead but serve their senses and their mental whims in terms of their speculative habits. Intelligent persons seeking transcendental realization should very scrupulously avoid their company. What a powerful verse and what a powerful purport. Avoid bad company. How? People ask, y'all keep saying, get attached, get attached. How? By becoming detached. Getting attached to something means getting detached to something undesirable. So, here, to avoid bad company means to keep good company. It's simple as that. So, if we keep company of devotees, now one may say, oh, we live so far away, we cannot go to the temple, there are no devotees living around us. And right now, with COVID-19, we cannot even meet the devotees, we don't have association. Says who? We can easily associate with devotees. Right now, we all are associating with each other, right? On Zoom, right? We can read Srila Prabhupada's books, that is association with Srila Prabhupada. We hear lectures, that is association with the devotees. We talk to senior devotees, we can talk to them on the phone, we can talk to them on Zoom. Why should we keep good company? Why should we keep association of devotees? Because, as Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, they have realized, their realized instructions can help us to cut the knot of materialism, to cut the knot of attachment to materialistic life. So, this is the result of association with the senior devotees or pure devotees of the Lord, or self-realized devotees of the Lord. They will help us to progress spiritually. And what will be the result of associating with them? Then there will be no more unfavorable activities. Srila Prabhupada gives the example, even in Bhagavad Gita, in one of his purports, or maybe in one of his lectures, he says that just like a child is eating mud, and if the mother tells the child, don't eat mud, the child is not going to listen until and unless the mother gives a sweet to the child, maybe a rasgulla or a gulab jamun. Immediately the child will leave the mud aside and start eating the sweet. Why? Because it's a higher taste. Similarly, when we associate with devotees, self realized people, senior devotees, when we associate with them, when we read Srila Prabhupada's books, so that higher taste will help us in giving up the lower taste. So the unfavorable activities will automatically go away. So, as Prabhupada mentions that this verse is from the Uddhava Gita, and he states that it is very, very important. Even the last sentence, he says, intelligent persons who want transcendental realization. So, first of all, we have to make a choice. Do I want transcendental realization? If yes, what do we need to do? It says they should very scrupulously avoid their company. Whose company? The materialistic people. The two kinds of undesirable association he talks about: gross materialists who constantly engage in sense gratification, and the unbelievers, those who don't believe in God. They just believe in satisfying their senses. They are godas. They are not Goswamis, they are Godas. But Srila Prabhupada, in fact, Rupa Goswami, explains to us that we should become a Goswami, right? We have to learn to control the senses. And how is that possible? by constantly engaging in devotional service. Just like the materialists are constantly engaging in sense gratification, we constantly engage in devotional service to Lord Krishna. So even Bhagavad Gita states, that only the intelligent people take up to Krishna consciousness. They want to perform devotional service. So from this verse, we can understand the importance of correct association, right association, association of devotees. Have to be very, very, very careful. We may say that, oh, there is some place I have to go, it'll be full of materialists. I'll just be there for a little while, just for a little while. And I'm quite sure, my consciousness will not get affected. Yes, of course, sometimes because of our work, of course, now everyone is working from home, but when people go to the office to work, sometimes they have to associate with non-devotees, but it should be only to the extent necessary, not more than that. There's no point in sitting down and discussing, oh, so what do you think? Who is going to be the next president? Oh, so and so won. Oh, that one got that many votes, and this one did not. You know, this is unnecessary talk, absolutely unnecessary. So we have to be very, very careful of with whom do we associate, and if it is absolutely necessary to associate with materialists because of our work, because of requirements from the boss or whatever it may be, we do it only to the extent necessary. In that case, we give association, but we do not take association. So we have to choose very wisely that who do we associate with, because that is what is going to determine how we progress in our spiritual life. If we continue to associate with devotees, with self-realized devotees, with pure devotees, with senior devotees, then they help us, they motivate us, they guide us, they inspire us to progress spiritually, and they also are like a fence, right? If you remember, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talks about how we should protect the Bhakti Lata beach, right? We can water it with chanting, but we have to remove the weeds, which are the anarthas, and we also have to have a fence around that plant, right? So that it is protected. So association of devotees is that protection. So somehow or the other, we must try to associate with devotees. I know everyone is very busy, but once in a while, pick up the phone and call a devotee and talk about Krishna Katha. I don't think any of us here right on we all are there on Zoom. I don't think any of us would mind getting a phone call. In fact, we will appreciate, oh, you're reminding me of Krishna, okay, let's talk about some Krishna Katha, right? So association is very, very, very important. So I'm going to end now with this verse number 59. If there are any questions.